Hello everyone, my name is Boluwatife Omotayo and I am the CEO and co-founder at gamp. I find the phenomenon behind fatherhood very interesting. My father, who is not necessarily my biological father, talks a lot about fatherhood and sonship. And many years ago when I used to read voraciously, I read a book called The Jewish Phenomenon. And in that book, if I remember clearly, there was a chapter there where they talked about what fatherhood looks like for Jews. And so what it simply meant was, or what I read at the book at the time was that at the phase in a child's life, the son is weaned off the mother and is handed over to the father to begin the journey of life. Fatherhood is really important. On my slide here, my talk is basically me sharing 5 lessons I've learned from my African father. I mean, whatever lessons here you see might not be absolute, but these are some critical things I think I've learned from them and I found very useful. Beneath it says, wisdom for a global generation. You know, as globalization continues to happen and we see cross marriages, you know, we need to find ways to retain wisdom that we have gotten from the different cultural contexts that we come from. Sarah, how do you this? Okay, my next slide is supposed to say who's an African father. Can I get up with this? Yeah. My next slide is supposed to say who's an African father. An African father is the one who holds your hand and walks you into the journey of fatherhood. My father used to say that a woman cannot lead a man into fatherhood, that it's a father who leads a son into fatherhood. I mean, of course, there are several arguments and debates that go on about it today, but that's what my African father said. Yeah, I mean, yeah, some very interesting lessons I've learned from African father. The first lesson here says that money is the lowest form of wealth. Once the slide gets there, you see what I'm trying to say. Now, when my father taught me that lesson, my father said that I should picture an imaginary ladder. And my father said that on that ladder, you would find different rungs from the bottom to the top. And he said, if you are trying to categorize money in terms of what wealth looks like, he said money is going to be at the lower or the lowest rung. And it made me very inquisitive about it because of the way we have treated money, especially as young people. I am fortunate to be a millennial. I'm not Gen Z, even though I might look like one. But I mean, that lesson definitely helps me put money in its right perspective. I mean, of course, next question becomes, so aside money, what else do we think wealth looks like? My father said a thing like name is a higher form of wealth. You know, many years ago, I did a program at the African Leadership Academy in Johannesburg. And I sat beside this young lady and we got talking. I mean, of course, the ALE has, you know, people from different parts of Africa. And then when we sat, we got talking, and then I said, oh, I even learned Sanusi's daughter also schools here. And then she said, oh, you mean my cousin? I was like, okay. And then we got talking, and then we got talking about the wealth in Nigeria, and then we talked about Dangote. And then said, oh, you mean my uncle? So that's what name is, you know. You can get into some rooms and just have Dangote on your middle name, and I can bet you that it's going to spoil a different kind of conversation. Yeah. I mean, the first question is going to be, I mean, who are you to Dangote, or who is Dangote to you, or where are you from, or who is your father? I mean, definitely questions are going to come up. So a name is one greater form of wealth than cash. Another one that is greater than cash is knowledge. You know, knowledge is principally what brings everything that we have today. You know, information is another critical or a senior brother to cash if you look at wealth in the different rungs of the ladder. The second lesson my father taught me is habits take us further than our dreams. A lot of us have different kinds of dreams, and this lesson is very important to me because people ask me some questions, and people ask me questions like, what do you want to be in the next 20 years? What do you want to be in the next 30 years? And very honestly, I don't know what I want to be in the next 20 or 30, and I don't think too much about it. When I was in elementary school, people would ask me that question a lot. What are you going to be? I never wanted to be a doctor because my dad worked in the medical profession, so it really wasn't exciting for me. I never wanted to be any of the things that everybody was so excited about. And so, I just picked something. I said, okay, I want to be an engineer because I needed to say something. And then what kind of engineer? I really didn't know what kind of engineer I wanted to be. But it all made sense to me when I learned this lesson from my father, which is, habits take us further than our dreams. What does that mean? My father taught me a lesson. He said, place two ladders side by side. And this is a mistake a lot of young people make. Picture it. On the first ladder, you see a very affluent person wearing a very nice shirt, carrying stash of cash, because that's what wealth looks like to young people these days. And picture him at the top of the ladder, and picture him facing downwards. And then picture the other ladder here, a young person, simply dressed, and then he's climbing up. If they ask an average person here to answer, maybe not here because this is filled with smart people. If you ask an average person, who would you like to be like? Most people will point to that guy. But one thing you are not noticing is that guy is coming down. And this guy is going up. Now the next question becomes, why is this guy coming down and why is that guy going up? Very simple. Habits. This guy has cash, but he doesn't know how to keep it. This guy has a wife, but he doesn't know how to keep it. He has a family, he doesn't know how to keep it. But this guy has nothing yet, but he's taking in knowledge and he's building the critical habits that is going to take him into the future. I am not stressed about what I want to be in future, I'm just stressed about my habits. Do I work hard enough? Do I read enough? Do I keep enough? Do I say things right? And that basically is one of my guarantees. I think I'm going to get a very good future. The next lesson says, posers don't pass. Oh, that's my ancestors. Posers don't pass before fathers. And in trying to make sense with this, one of the fathers that life gave me, in the spirit of mentioning names because I'm in the NUTM community, is Dr. Babs. And one of the things my father taught me is when you meet fathers, it's not the time to show off. It's not the time to start talking about, I've raised $10 million in capital. It's not the time to start saying, I just came back from south of France, I was able to save enough, and that's not the time to do that. When you are with fathers, it is the time to share progress, and it's the time to talk less and listen more. Fathers are not the people that you post to. I just mentioned Dr. Babs, and Dr. Babs just walked in. Whenever I'm fortunate to be with Dr. Babs, I just want to take in as much as possible. Dr. Babs has shared some things that I shouldn't be sharing with me, just because I think I've been able to posture right, in the presence of a father. So posers don't pass with fathers. It's not the time to show off the cars. In fact, it's not the time to go there with your best car. If you have two cars, you have a Corolla and then you have a Benz, please just go with your Toyota. Of course, I'm not saying that you have to live lesser than you are, but I'm just saying that's the heart position and the mental position you need to take if you want to get things from fathers. One of the questions would become, so why am I doing all these things with fathers? Because fathers have something to offer, and so if you want to get something from someone, then you have to be right. The next lesson is from my African father, is save in trickles and spend in bulk. My father says that the reason why a lot of people don't have savings is because they are expecting one big money to buy that property. And it doesn't work like that. My father says that you have to apportion some of your income and save it. And it's those small things that become big things and you used to do big things. So you save in trickles and you spend in bulk. And that's why it's cheaper when you buy in wholesale than when you buy in unit quantities. Yeah, a very interesting lesson here. Never be afraid to start a fight. never be afraid to start a fight. You know, my father taught me that wisdom is recognizing who to fight and who not to fight. Wisdom is recognizing when to fight and when not to fight. You know, when we were kids, I mean, I grew up in a family with three boys, and we used to fight. You know, I had an older brother, I had a younger brother, and I was just the guy in the middle. And I was always in fights. I would fight my older brother, he would definitely beat me because he was bigger than me. I would fight my younger brother, I would definitely beat him because I'm bigger than him. But if anybody's supposed to get punished, I would definitely always get punished. Why? Because my dad thinks my older brother is too big to be finding my trouble, and then my younger brother is too small to be the one troubling me. I mean, so I mean, high school, I got into fights, we fought and stuff, and I mean, as I grew older, I began to become more calm about life, you know. But again, as I grew older also, my father also taught me that the wisdom in picking fights is to fight the ones you know you'd win. And it's very simple. I mean, the book of faith that I read so much, you know, when the supreme person in the book of faith I read so much, Jesus Christ was talking, he said, like, which of you wants to build a house and would not first sit down and count the cost before it begins the journey? I think that's just the wisdom in fighting. So the lesson here doesn't mean that you should fight all the time. The message doesn't mean that if you have issues with your boss, you should go and fight him. Please don't fight your boss. There's another rule or there's another lesson that my father taught me, which is you don't win your boss. So that handles that already. Don't fight your boss, please. So pick your battles, fight, and never be afraid to fight. Now the next slide here is basically like, where do fathers come from? I mean, it's very easy for us to automatically assume that fathers are biologically given to us. That's not correct. I'll quickly share something with you. I had an incident where I was on the call with my uncle, his wife, and one other family, and we're talking. And my dad was on the call, and I kept referring to the man as my uncle and my aunt. And then when I got off the call, my dad called me and said, you don't call him your uncle, he's your dad. And you don't call her your aunt, she's your mom. And I was like, but they are my uncle and my auntie. It's an African lesson, you know. You have something to get from them. These are people that form or will be a part of that journey or glorious journey that you're going to. So you definitely have to refer to them as fathers and mothers. A couple places you can get fathers from biologically, you know. My father, who happens to be a clergy, is my biological father, you know. But I also have fathers in work and in career. You know, one of the things I do when I especially work with someone, in my previous job, I used to work with this young guy who definitely is not old enough to be my father, but I treated him as one. And because I treated him as one, I was able to get benefits that you get from a father and a son. And an example of that is when I was trying to raise capital for my startup. He was one of the first people that committed to giving me cash for my investments. You know, and that was because of the way I built that relationship with him. I didn't build the relationship with him as someone who was just supposed to give me cash at the end of the month and then I'm off. I built that relationship with him as a boss, father, son relationship. So yes, you can get the father from work or your career. And then community. You know, one of the places I personally have gotten my father from, who I've mostly referenced in this slide, is my pastor. You know, so church communities, mosques, etc. And so I'd like to leave you with one statement, which is what I have done for the most part of my adult life. I have always been on a father's finding mission, and I would encourage you to also be on that mission. Wherever you go, whoever you meet, keep being on a father's finding mission, because that's the way you would have a guaranteed manhood. Thank you.